Councilmember Bankston, will you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This afternoon, Council is grateful to have Apostle Bo Burns from the Greater Glory Empowerment Temple here to pray with us. Apostle, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Let us pray. Heavenly, most gracious Father, we thank you for this opportunity in this moment to be before you. Now, Father, we pray and we ask, Lord, that you will bless every council member, Lord, tonight, Lord. Father, open up their minds, open up their hearts for everything that you will have for them to discuss tonight, Lord. Father, we pray that your will would be done, and we thank you right now for who you are in everyone's life, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorrance, Green, Remy White, President Harden. Any person who takes any action to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorrance, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will go around the dais for updates and resolutions from my colleagues, starting with Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, President Harden. I do have one announcement this evening. I will be chairing two public hearings regarding the mayor's proposed 2025 capital improvements budget and the capital improvements program. The first hearing will take place this Friday here in council chambers at 1 p.m., with the second hearing taking place next Friday, July 25th at 1 p.m. as well. This Friday's hearing will consist of an overview of this year's proposed $2.9 billion capital budget, as well as individual presentations from the Finance and Management Department, Department of Public Service, Department of Recreation and Parks, the Department of Public Safety, our Department of Development, and Columbus Water and Power, formerly known as Department of Public Utilities. Any resident or organization seeking to submit written testimony or give any in-person testimony should notify my legislative aide, J.P. Dorval, at jpdorval, D-O-R-V-A-L, at columbus.gov by 9 a.m. the day of both of those hearings. Each speaker's remarks will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Additionally, I want to encourage our residents that there are 3 other opportunities to engage around the capital budget. The mayor's office will be holding 3 town halls events ahead of our hearing this week. The first event will be tomorrow from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at New Birth Christian Ministries, located at 3475 Refugee Road. The second event will take place this Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at Columbus Co-ed, located at 1890 East Main Street. And the third event will take place this Thursday from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Woodward Park Community Center, located at 5147 Carl Road. The full proposed budget and additional details of all the town halls can be found on the city's website at columbus.gov/capital, and all hearings will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channels and Facebook pages. We look forward to engaging with the community and all of our stakeholders as we go through this capital budget process. Thank you, President Hart. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. I have 2 announcements this evening. First, last week I was excited to help with the official opening of the Whittier Street Bridge. This project constructed a new cement barrier along the bridge to safely separate people who are walking and biking on the path from the vehicle traffic passing by on Whittier Street as it connects to the Scioto Audubon Metro Park. The separation provides a safer experience for anyone who uses a new path, whether you're a cyclist, pedestrian, or on a mobility of device. I just want to thank folks in the area because it was a while that connection was closed. Part of that connection was closed, and it, I know, created some traffic headaches for folks, but now we have a safe new bridge for folks to attend all the good things that are happening at the Audubon Center. Secondly, I'm excited that we received 14 applications for our 614 Beautiful Grant Program through the Neighborhood Design Center. This program allows community organizations to create beautiful murals, pocket parks, and other great ideas come to life from our residents, creating beautiful spaces all over Columbus. So we'll be announcing the awardees towards the end of the month. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who applied, and we are excited to see what new beautiful spaces will come out of the 614 Beautiful Grant Cycle this time around. And that's all for me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Beatty.
Yes, I have one item this evening. I wanted to announce that my committee will be hosting a public hearing next week to discuss proposed zoning changes that would allow it easier for residents and property owners to build accessory dwelling units in residential zoning districts. That hearing will take place next Tuesday, July 22nd at 5 p.m. And all residents that are interested in speaking or hearing what this is about, please contact our office by 12 noon that day. That's all I have, Kim.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Deakar.
Thank you, Council President. I have two announcements this evening. I'd like to start by thanking all who packed chambers last week for our public hearing on the Getting Grants Ready Academy. We heard about some amazing results from the program's inaugural year and heard some inspiring testimony from some of the nonprofits who participated in this first cohort. And at the end of the hearing, we announced that after securing funding for our second year in the operational budget, applications for the second cohort of the Academy are now open. To qualify, you must operate a nonprofit that has been around for less than 10 years and has less than $500,000 annual budget and has no dedicated grant writing staff. And the nonprofit needs to work in the health and human services or youth programming sectors. The QR code leading to application is on the screens here in Chambers. And you can also find the link on our city council social media pages. And applications will close July 31st, so be sure to get the word out to all your friends who have small, scrappy nonprofits, so we can ensure that we are reaching all the nonprofits and connecting them to the resources and tools they need to expand their impact. And secondly, I want to invite everyone out to our remaining Rise Up C-Bus events throughout the city. Rise Up C-Bus is a program from the Department of Neighborhoods that highlights the work of Opportunity Rising, Mayor Ginther's vision for every Columbus resident to equitably prosper and grow. Attendees can learn about resources available from the city, as well as community partners, while enjoying free food and music. These free events are open to everyone and are a great way to connect with your neighbors and build community pride. So be sure to come out to Rise Up C-Bus event in your neighborhood. The next one is on July 21st at the Cherry Creek YMCA. They start at 4:30, end at 7:30. And on August 7th, there will be on Bethel Road at Bethel International, and I will be holding community hours there, so you can pop in and say hello. So that's all from me, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Press Pro Tem. Councilmember Green. Councilmember Remy. Councilmember White. And I don't have any announcements either, only that we have 2 council meetings left before legislative break, and so we're working diligently with our friends in the administration and our community partners to make sure that we are getting all of our legislation and needs met before legislative recess. Are there any comments by our elected officials' offices? At this time, I request the following agenda items be moved, or following ordinances be moved from the consent portion of the agenda. Ordinance number 1665 in the 1655 in the Economic Development Committee. Are there any other requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent portion of the agenda? Hearing none, may we now have the motion to waive the readings of the titles of 38 legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 38 legislation on tonight's agenda?
In Finance and Governance Committee, we have ordinance 1566, 1834, 1842, 1844, and 1886-2025. In Economic Development and Small and Minority Business Committee, we have ordinance 1848, 1882, 1893, 1910, and 1913-2025. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinance 1838 and 1852-2025. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, ordinance 1835, 1854, and 1897-2025. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, ordinance 360, 1587, 1685, 1714, 1718, 1741, 1744, 1750, 1752, 1758, 1760, 1798, and 1799-2025. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, ordinance 1759, 1766, 1796, 1803, 1820, 1821, 1846, 1865, and 1880-2025. Zoning Committee, rezonings, we have ordinance 1839, 1957, 1958, 1960, and 1978-2025.
We don't have any speakers on the first reading portion of the agenda. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 169 and 170, 169X and 170X-2025. Finance and Governance Committee, ordinances 1547, 1694, 1699, 1700, 1730, 1739, 1762, 1776, 1814, 1815, 1841, 1853, 1881, 1904, and 1972-2025. In Economic and Development and Small and Minority Business, we have ordinance 1680, 1797, 1855, 1912, and 1981-2025. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinance 1645, 1667, 1717, 1733, 1764, 1856, 1896, and 1914-2025. Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, ordinances 1622, 1627, and 1740-2025. Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee, ordinances 1706 and 1709-2025. Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, ordinance 1716-2025. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, ordinances 1817, 1924-2025. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, ordinances 1595, 1598, 1599, 1638, 1675, 1678, 1693, 1695, 1720, 1724, 1727, 1767, 1769, 1772, 1895, 1920, and 1925-2025. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, ordinances 1684, 1721, 1800, and 1819-2025. Rules and Policies, appointments from the mayor, A 119, 120, 121, 122, and 123-2025.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We don't have any speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. Are there any questions or comment? We moved that from. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve these items designated as consent? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa,
By voice?
Bangston,
My bad.
Barosa de Padilla, Beatty,
Yes.
De Akauer. Yes. Dorance. Green. Remy. Weiss. President Harden.
Yes, consent portion of the agenda is passed. The first committee we're going to go to is the Rules and Policy Committee. I chair that committee. We wanted to first pass this piece of legislation that we started working on in June during Pride Month. It is Ordinance 1412-2025. It's to enact Chapter 179 of the Columbus City Codes to establish first ever lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer affairs commission. So I announced this legislation in June during Pride Month and held a hearing on this last Thursday to hear from the community regarding the formation of this commission. The night before the commission, Mary Jo Hudson, who was the first openly gay council member who served on this council, and I think is the reason that made space for a council member like myself to serve here. She sent me a video. It was a video of a contentious council vote in 1984 right here in council chambers over whether to include sexual orientation in our city's anti-discrimination protections. So clearly put, should we be able to discriminate against people because they are gay or not? At this time, it was legal in Columbus to do so. The council meeting was packed. It was contentious. It had supporters and opponents. They were asking simply for the right to live their lives openly. The legislation failed that day. It failed that day. But there were some champions and folks that I look up to still to this day that supported it, like my predecessor, the first Black council president, Jerry Hammond, supported the legislation, and I'm very grateful for it. Before we pass this piece of legislation, or before I ask my council members to vote on this, I want to play a clip from the video that MJ sent me.
The thing that surprised everyone so much about City Council is that the whole time, all the way up until at least the day before and even up until that evening, we all were counting on winning. We had the votes, we had done the work, we did all the right things, we made all the right moves. Going back as far as a couple years prior to that, we had been very active in the political process. We had worked for different candidates for City Council. We raised money, we leafleted, we went door to door. We did all of the things that one is supposed to do in the United States, that is to give citizens their rights, the different ways and methods to influence your legislators. It wasn't until that day that we started to see cracks developing, and of course it was a roller coaster ride down from there on out.
I actually am here in two persons tonight. My name is Rhonda Rivera. I live at 385 East Schreier. My profession is attorney and legal scholar. I cannot remember, although I'm a relatively well-known public speaker, when I have felt so deeply and cared so much, so you will excuse me. Over 54 cities in this nation already have this legislation. It's not that wild. One state has voted to protect gay people all over with regard to their employment rights. We have 4 executive orders in states around this country. I would like to introduce to you my son, who is 17 years old and is about to graduate from a Columbus public school. He's going to finish my time.
My name is Robert Rivera. I go to Columbus Alternative High School. And I guess one of the things that I'm really pleased with about Columbus is that I can go to a school where I feel happy. Columbus Alternative is a place where people can go when they don't feel quite right with the Columbus public school system as it stands now. People feel ostracized in schools, and ostracism is a tough thing to deal with. It makes people hurt. I've watched my mom for 17 years. This hurts. What I'd like to say to you tonight is that we're all opening our hearts to you, and we're putting them on a silver platter so that you have 2 choices. You can cut it, or you can love it. That's all I can say.
If there is anyone in this room who has ever been fired or denied work because they are gay, if there's anyone here in this room who has ever been in fear of being gay, if there's ever anyone in this room who has ever suffered abuse or discrimination because they are gay, if you believe that the time is now to end this waste of people, would you silently stand up? As voters, as workers, as citizens, as decent, hardworking Americans in this city, as people, we ask you to vote yes.
Men and women are made by their Creator. Blacks are made by their Creator. Whites are made by their Creator. Homosexuals are not made.
Homosexuality is just what God said it is. It's an unclean, unsanitary practice. It's foolishness. It's foolishness. You don't let a leper person in among clean people. You quarantine them. You keep them outside. You quarantine smallpox and herpes, AIDS, and these various diseases that have stemmed out of the homosexual community should not be forced to be placed among God's clean people.
We believe if passed, this bill will allow homosexual, lesbian teachers in our school and will create a hysteria-type atmosphere among the parents whose children may have to shower in front of a known homosexual and go to the bathroom in front of a known homosexual or lesbian, and we don't want it. We also know that homosexuals cannot reproduce. They must recruit, and the best place to recruit is going to be the daycare and the public school system.
It is in my committee. I would move for the passage of 832-84. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Espy.
For the reasons I stated, I'm voting no.
Maloney.
I believe that there's a constitutional question involved here, and I vote yes.
Mr. Mantle.
No.
Yeah. Mr. Portman.
No.
I cannot vote the way I'd like to vote, so I'm going to say no, because I believe we do not have a clear-cut piece of legislation that will cause anything but unhappiness.
Teeter.
No.
Mr. Hammond.
Well, it's obviously obvious that as the person who brought the legislation in, I strongly believe that there is no support for discrimination. I will vote yes. The legislation fails, however.
But just the fact that our community showed up with such civility and such determination and such pride, facing all that filth and the vulgar and the screaming and the yelling and the denigration, and we came out of there with our heads up very high.
We held a candlelight vigil after that night after the ordinance failed, and it was good to see so many people there. It was showed that we hadn't given up. We were still cohesive. We were still going to work. We were still going to fight. We're going back to council. We're not going to give up.
When the issue comes up again, because it will, I'll be there.
And we'll not only be back this year, but this time we're going to win.
Yeah, I'm ready for next time.
I won't quit. None of us will quit.
And we will keep fighting until we get what we deserve.
They did not stop fighting, and the city council did vote to enshrine anti-discrimination into our city. But I play that video because there's a saying that people that forget their history are doomed to repeat it. It seems that too many of us have forgotten our history, and at the state and federal level right now, we are repeating, demonizing people just for who they are. And so we had a lot of folks come out last Thursday to support this legislation. We also had folks send in hateful testimony on why we should not have a commission that supports and advocates and encourages Columbus to be and to continue to be an open and inclusive community. There is still work to be done, and there are still fights to be had. And I am proud to put this legislation forward and would ask for my colleagues' support. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, I move for passage. Oh, first I move to amend as submitted. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
And now I move for passage as amended. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. Thank you. The next piece of legislation in the Rules and Reference Committee is not so exciting. It is ordinance 1964-2025 is to amend the section 111.01 of the Columbus City Codes pertaining to the ability of council to hold virtual meetings and to repeal existing section 111.01 and to declare an emergency. This legislation follows a code change passed by council in 2023 that put into practical effect the charter amendments passed in 2022, allowing for virtual meetings of public bodies in Columbus. The code change dealt specifically with council meetings and the prescribed circumstances under which it could hold a meeting either in person, virtually, or a combination of the two. On April 9th, 2025, a state law change went into effect, which allows virtual meetings by public bodies statewide. Tonight's amendment to our city code complies with this state law change and further outlines how and when council can hold virtual meetings. Public notice will be given by a virtual meeting 72 hours prior to the meeting, except in cases of emergencies such as weather emergencies. If there are no comments or questions from my colleagues, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. We will now go back into regular order. So the next committee to come before council is the Finance and Governors Committee, chaired by Councilmember Bangston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. First up tonight in the Finance and Governors Committee for second reading, we have Resolution 013X-2025 to determine to proceed with the issue of bonds and certifying same to the Board of Elections in the amount of $250 million for health, safety, and infrastructure, and to declare an emergency per section 44-1E of the city charter. Council members, this resolution, along with the following 4 resolutions, are related to the upcoming City of Columbus voted bond package. On June 9th, the City Council adopted a series of resolutions that deemed it necessary to submit to the electors ballot measures for the issuance of $1.9 billion in voted bonds, comprised of $250 million for health, safety, and infrastructure, $250 million for recreation and parks, $400 million for public service, $500 million for affordable housing, and $500 million for public utilities. These resolutions also authorize the city clerk to certify a copy of such resolutions with the Franklin County Auditor with instructions for the auditor to estimate the annual property tax levy. The resolutions in consideration tonight authorize the city to proceed in placing certain ballot measures on the November 4th, 2025 ballot for the city's voted bond package. Furthermore, the resolutions in consideration this evening also stipulate the language and millage amount to be included in the ballot measure. Upon adoption, certified resolution of necessity and to proceed must be filed with the Franklin County Board of Elections by August 6, 2025. The bond amounts and purpose clauses for said amounts in each resolution are as follows. For ordinance 0135X-2025, $250 million for health, safety, and infrastructure. Resolution 013X-2025, $250 million for recreation and parks. Resolution 0137X-2025, $400 million for public service. And finally, 0138X-2025, $500 million for neighborhood development and affordable housing. And I apologize, one more, 0139X-2025, which is for $500 million in public utilities. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption of Resolution 013X-35X-2025.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next, we have Resolution 013X-2025 to determine to proceed with the issue of bonds and certifying the same to the Board of Elections in the amount of $250 million for recreation and parks and to declare an emergency per section 44-1E of the city charter. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next is Resolution 0137X-2025 to determine to proceed with issue of bonds and certifying same to the Board of Elections in the amount of $400 million for public service and to declare an emergency per Section 44-1E of the City Charter. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next is Resolution 0138X-2025 to determine to proceed with the issue of bonds and certifying same to the Board of Elections in the amount of $500 million for neighborhood development and affordable housing and to declare an emergency. I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopted.
And last but not least in that, those resolution packages for our bond package for the voters' consideration is Resolution 0139X-2025 to determine to proceed with the issue of bonds and certifying same to the Board of Elections in the amount of $500 million for public utilities for water, power, sanitary sewer, and storm sewers, and to declare an emergency per Section 44-1E of the City Charter. And before I move for adoption, Council President, I just want to reiterate to folks, there will be a lot of engagement that will happen with residents. For many of us, this is very routine. We have done this practice since the 1950s, where we go before voters to ask them for their ability for our ability to issue debt to invest in our city's infrastructure. Again, what will appear to voters is something that they have seen time and time again. It looks like a levy, but really what it is giving us the authority to go out and borrow that debt. The city's practice has been since 1956 to set aside 25 cents of every income tax dollar to pay for our debt service. We have not raised property taxes to cover our debt since 1956, and that is a practice that we will continue. So we look forward to engaging with voters around it. This is a way for us to continue to invest in our infrastructure without raising property taxes, and we look forward to going to voters and educating them as well as going to them on this November ballot for their consideration. And with that, Council President, I move for adoption of Resolution 0139X-2025.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next, we have Ordinance 1630-2025 to authorize the Department of Technology for the City Attorney's Office to enter into contract for continued conversion of legal documents via backfile scanning and electronic signature process capabilities using a state term contract to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $92,388.10 with an additional $3,630 added for shredding services, totaling $96,018.10 from the Information Services Bond Fund. This ordinance authorizes the Department of Technology on behalf of the City Attorney's Office to enter into a contract for continued conversion of legal documents via backfile scanning capabilities with 3SG Plus LLC. These services will allow for the continuation of the conversion of legal documents via backfile scanning to assist with the process of modernization and converting to paperless case file storage. Given the extensive and urgent need for the continued digital conversions of legal documents, a waiver of competitive bidding has been requested. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. Next, we have Ordinance 1637-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Technology on behalf of the Columbus Department of Public Health to enter into a professional services contract with 3SG Plus LLC for the migration to the Excella Environmental Health Platform, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $258,000 from the Information Services Bond Fund. The ordinance authorizes the Department of Technology on behalf of the Department of Health to enter into a professional services contract with 3SG Plus LLC for the migration from the Decade Envision Connect system to the Excella Environmental Health Platform. The Decade Envision Connect system provided the Columbus Public Health Department the ability to operate the environmental health unit by providing an extensive array of services such as tracking and maintaining information associated with inspections, historical data of restaurants and other businesses, tracking sanitation standards, data, sector control for mosquitoes, environmental reviews, accounts receivable, payable, and billing, and much more. With this service, the Columbus Public Health Department without this service, the Columbus Public Health Department would lose its ability to operate the environmental health unit, which could result in the failure to meet requirements mandated by the state of Ohio. In 2024, Excella announced plans to decommission the Decade Envision Connect system, which it acquired in 2014. It encourages users to migrate to the Excella environmental health platform, which has enhanced functionality. A waiver of competitive bidding is requested in order to complete the project with the necessary timeline and for a smooth transition. The term of the contract will be 1 year, beginning on the date of a confirmed purchase order by the City Auditor's Office at a cost of $258,000. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Next is ordinance 1658-2025 to authorize the appropriation of funds within the income tax set-aside subfund and the information services taxable GO bond fund to authorize the transfer of cash between the income tax set-aside subfund and the information services taxable GO bond fund to authorize the expenditure of up to $23 million within the information services taxable GO bond fund, to authorize an amendment to the 2024 capital improvements budget, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Director of Technology to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contracts for upgrade, boundary, network, and voice over IP communication, and to declare an emergency. To enhance cybersecurity and modernize the city's IT infrastructure, the Department of Technology is proposing the implementation of a zero-trust network. Unlike traditional security models that assume trust within the internal network system, the zero-trust network follows the principle of never trust, always verify. The city's existing network model grants implicit trust to anyone with valid credentials. To stay ahead of evolving cyber threats, we must adopt a zero-trust model centered on micro-segmentation, dividing the network into secure, isolated zones that limit access strictly to what is necessary. By implementing micro-segmentation, we ensure that every user, device, and application is continuously verified and only permitted to access the specific resources they need and nothing more. This not only strengthens our defenses, but also contains potential breaches, preventing them from spreading across departments or systems. Implementing Zero Trust Network will require replacing or upgrading over 20,000 pieces of network equipment across 250 city buildings and 2 data centers. Due to the interdependency of the systems, the transition must occur quickly and comprehensively rather than incrementally. Each department will operate on its own segmented network. Every user, device, and system must continuously authenticate and verify permissions. System access is restricted to authorized individuals only. Zero Trust networks are designed to contain and prevent network intrusions from spreading to other parts of the network. The project will cost approximately $23 million and take approximately 2 years to complete. The project will be financed using capital funds recovered through the Department of Technology's annual departmental chargebacks. And in layman's terms, that is a way for us to pay for this without it eating into our capital capacity to take away from other infrastructure projects. Equipment will be purchased through the universal term contract with CDWG, leveraging an estimated 68% discount on Cisco hardware. Purchasing this equipment now mitigates risk from upcoming global supply chain disruptions and tariff increases and allows the project to begin this summer. And I want to be clear that this project is something that is transformational for our city. And being able to invest in our entire network all at once, to pay for that over time without compromising our capital budget and the expense of other capital projects is something that to be rewarded. This is a huge undertaking by our Department of Technology, but we know that this is the best practice and standard in the industry. And so I just want to applaud our Director of Technology for his work behind the scenes on this. This is going to take a lot of work and a lot of work from the team, and they are already working overtime on so many other things. So I just want to thank you for that. Any pause there and any questions or comments from my colleagues before we move forward? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1747-2025 to authorize the city auditor to enter into an agreement along with the Auditor of State of Ohio and RIA and Associates, Inc. for professional auditing services for calendar year 2025, to waive the relevant competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of up to $352,000 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. All political subdivisions of Ohio are required to be audited by the Auditor of State of Ohio or a designee. For the last 3 years, the Auditor of State conducted the city's audit directly. Beginning in 2025, as the result of a competitive bidding process, RIA and Associates, Inc. will be conducting the city's audit. The audit agreement with RIA and Associates covers 5 years, 2025 through 2029, and each year is subject to the authorization appropriation of council. Emergency action is being requested to provide uninterrupted audit services, allowing RIA and Associates, Inc. to meet requirements for a timely audit, ensuring that the city not be delayed in issuing its annual comprehensive report and meeting all deadlines for prompt financial reporting. And I do just want to commend our auditor. I put this note in here to add that we don't want disruption because we are the largest big city who gets our audit out before anybody else. And so we want to keep that distinction, and want to thank her and her team for continuing to modernize our systems, but also for making sure that we are able to audit our books in such a timely and most efficient way. So thank you, Madam Auditor, to you and your team. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Next is ordinance 1761-2025 to authorize the Finance and Management Director on behalf of the Facilities Management Division to enter into a contract with Key Cleaning Connection, LLC, for custodial services at the Columbus Police Academy, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Codes, to authorize expenditure of $89,000 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes a contract on behalf of the Facilities Management Division with Key Cleaning Connection, LLC, for custodial services at the Columbus Police Academy. This represents a short-term, 4-month contract extension to allow for the Facilities Management Division to complete the procurement process for a new custodial services contract. Key Cleaning Connection has been the custodial services contractor at the Columbus Police Academy since 2019. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Next, we have ordinance 1775-2025 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Office of Construction Management to modify and increase the agreement with Moody Nolan, Inc. for Architect of Record Services for the new municipal court building project, to authorize an expenditure up to $12,594,678.11 from the Construction Management Taxable Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. Colleague, this legislation authorizes a modification of architectural service agreements with Moody Nolan, Inc. for additional design services related to the new municipal court building project. Initial design for a new court building began in 2023 with the initial contract with Moody Nolan. Over the past 24 months, the Office of Construction Management, in coordination with Moody Nolan, the city's owners, Representative Pizzuti Solutions, Court Administration, the Franklin County Municipal Court Clerk, and the Columbus City Attorney's Office met in order to determine the space and programmatic needs of a new court facility. This contract modification will fund the final complete design as well as construction documents and construction bidding. This modification also provides funding for the demolition drawings and construction administration of the proposed demolition of the Carnes building. It is anticipated that this final design process will last approximately 12 months. However, early phases of demolition and construction will begin in early to mid-2026. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Next, we have ordinance 1806-2025 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish various purchase orders for automotive parts for the Fleet Management Division per the terms and conditions of various previously established universal term contracts, to authorize the expenditure of $2,800,000 from the Fleet Management Operating Fund and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Fleet Management Division to establish various purchase orders for the acquisition of vehicle parts from previously established universal term contracts. These parts are used by the Fleet Management Division to service and repair the city's fleet of over 6,000 vehicles. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Next, we have ordinance 1845-2025 to authorize the Director of the Finance and Management Department on behalf of the Fleet Management to allow the expenditure of more than $100,000 per vendor for automotive repair services and establish purchase orders in accordance with the terms and conditions of the citywide universal term contract to increase the universal term contract expenditure with each A-Tech Auto Body LLC, Frame and Spring Inc., FYDA Freightliner Columbus Inc., and Valley Ford Inc. to $250,000 for the Division of Fleet Management and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Fleet Management Division to establish various purchase orders for the purchase of services to aid in the repair and upkeep of city-owned vehicles. These services would include auto body repair, frame and spring repair, and other similar repairs. These services are used by Fleet Management Division to service and repair the city's fleet of over 6,000 vehicles. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
And last, in the Finance and Governance Committee, we have ordinance 1861-2025 to authorize the appropriation of $15,500,000 within the general fund and to declare an emergency. On June 2nd, 2025, the city auditor published a revision to the 2025 estimate of available resources into the general operating fund. As a result of positive revenue variances in income tax and other categories, the 2025 official revenue estimate was increased in order to align budgetary authority with the revenue estimate. This ordinance authorizes the appropriation of additional resources within the general operating fund. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
And believe it or not, Council President, I have more. May I proceed to the Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee?
You got it.
Thank you. Tonight in the Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee, we have ordinance 1209-2025, an ordinance I'm really excited about. It is to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement in the amount up to $2 million with the Mid-Ohio Food Bank, doing business as Mid-Ohio Food Collective, for the Mid-Ohio Food Collective Eastland Prosperity Center project, to authorize the appropriation of funds within the income tax set-aside subfund and the development taxable bonds fund, to authorize the transfer of cash between the income tax set-aside subfund and the department and the development taxable bond fund, to authorize the expenditure of up to $2 million within the development taxable bond fund, and to allow for reimbursement of expenditures prior to the purchase order. This ordinance provides a $2 million capital grant for the renovation of 67,000 square foot former grocery store into a multi-purpose center being dubbed the Eastland Prosperity Center. The Eastland Prosperity Center will offer emergency feeding services, primary health care, medical pharmacy services, benefits navigation assistance, and additional supportive services identified in partnership with the Eastland community. The center will also host an on-site production kitchen, dedicated healthcare facilities offered in partnership with the Ohio State University Total Health Care Center, and customized office space for a variety of social service providers. And also to mention, it will be the new home of the Eastland Pride Center. I'm really excited about this particular piece of legislation. It's something that we did just last week, $2 million that we gave to another critical partner in the Furniture Bank. This is another way that we are investing in our critical infrastructure. These nonprofits that we serve are not just some amenity of a big city, but they're a necessity of the times that we are in. And we know that with cuts coming out of both the State House as well as the federal administration, there are going to be demands and more needs on our nonprofit sector more than ever. And so this is the way that we're able to invest in them. We know that there are operating needs that so many of them are facing, but there are also true capital needs. And in order for them to keep up with the sure demand that is upon us as a city as we continue to grow, but because of this hostile administration, we have to make sure that we invest in spaces like this that really bring community together. So I want to thank our partners at the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. I want to thank our Department of Neighborhoods. This coincides with over 18-month plan that we have been doing with the Eastland community to really tell us what their needs, aspirations, and wants are. This is a way that we are making that a reality. So I want to thank everyone who has played a part in this. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Yeah, I knew the East Sider over here would say that. With that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
And then lastly, Council President, may I jump to page 11 of the agenda to read a second read ordinance under the Economic Development Committee that we took off of consent?
Please.
Thank you. I want to read ordinance 1655-2025. And first, I want to apologize that this was on the consent agenda. This was a mistake on our part that was inadvertently there, so we wanted to make sure that we got it onto second read. This is to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with 1489 Roar Holdings LLC for a property tax abatement of 75% for a period of 15 consecutive years on real property improvements in consideration of a proposed total investment of approximately $30 million in new building construction and the creation of 10 net new full-time permanent positions. 1489 Roar Holding LLC is a real estate holding company that is a subsidiary of Trident Capital Group, a U.S.-based real estate firm. 1489 Roar Holdings is proposing to invest a total project cost of approximately $30 million in real property improvements to constructing an approximate 300,000 square foot proactive industrial development at 1489 Roar Road. With this project, 1489 Rural Holdings LLC proposes to create 10 net new full-time permanent positions with an estimated annual payroll of approximately $416,000. And I would like to clarify that the 10 jobs mentioned is just a placeholder. Since this is a proactive development project, it means that there has been no tenant that has been identified just yet. Rural Holdings LLC has managed 2 other proactive warehouse developments in the project area, and both of these developments far exceeded the stated job numbers in the initial legislation, both by creating new jobs as well as the retention of existing jobs. I have full confidence that the same will be the case with this project. The Department of Development recommends a Rickenbacker Community Reinvestment Area of 75% for a period of 15 consecutive years for this project. And if you're familiar with this area, what you know is directly across the street from us are 2 different jurisdictions, both Groveport as well as Obetz. This property could have easily been, as well as the other properties, annexed into those different jurisdictions, and we would not have seen the tax benefit, that tax income of hundreds of jobs. So I just want to make that distinction as well. The Columbus City School District will continue to receive the current $4,069 in property tax revenue for the site, and is estimated to receive an additional $2,447,320 over the term of the abatement, and approximately $10,235,891 over a 30-year period because of the aforementioned project. They will also receive that additional 25% in increased revenue over the life of the abatement. I think we do have one speaker before I move for passage, Council President, on this legislation, Mr. Joe Motil. I believe I saw that he was here earlier. All right. Well, let the record reflect we did call Mr. Joe Motil, and he is not present currently. With that, I will pause if there are any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President, and that will conclude the Finance and Economic Development Hour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next committee coming for council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Rosa de Padilla. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Well, this the days get longer in the summer, and so do council meetings in July. So I have 5 ordinances today in public service and transportation. The first is ordinance 1128-2025 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into contract with the Ag Pro Ohio LLC to purchase a replacement skid steer to continue maintaining city streets, to authorize the waiver of the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of up to $68,409.30 from the Municipal Motor Vehicle Tax Fund, and to declare an emergency. This will authorize the purchase of 1 skid steer and a small front loader vehicle to repair and maintain city streets and bike lanes as part of the routine maintenance performed by the street maintenance team. This will allow citizens to continue to utilize city streets and bike lanes daily. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Weiss, President Harden.
Passed.
So the next 4 ordinances are, I want to talk about them for just a second. We are going to have a little bit of show and tell for some of them as I'm speaking, so folks can direct their attention, so you can see some of these really strong projects that we have that are coming up that demonstrate both our commitment to leveraging federal dollars to meet local needs, community engagement to enhance project outcomes, and our continued commitment to safety of all roadway users through our Vision Zero action plan. So you'll be able to see the final renderings of some of these projects as I talk about them. So the first is Ordinance 1738-2025 to appropriate funds within this Federal Transportation Grants Fund to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Strasser Paving Company Incorporated for the resurfacing urban planning FRA 2315.30 Indianola Avenue project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,115,416.28 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund and the Federal Transportation Grants Fund for the project, to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period, and to declare an emergency. This contract authorizes the resurfacing and urban paving for the Indianola project from Hudson to Oakland Park Avenue, and provides payment for construction administration, and inspection services. So you can see on the screen some of the before and after of what this includes. So it's roadway pavement repairs, spot replacement of curbs and sidewalks, construction of ADA curb ramps, installation of curb extensions, and associated storm water collection improvements. Additionally, this project will install bike lanes in both directions within the existing pavement limits. The estimated notice to proceed is July 28th, so this is coming very soon to Indianola. There was extensive public outreach for both this, I think especially as we talk about Link Us and we talk about major construction projects. While this area of Indianola is not quite as big as our footprint in Main Street or Broad Street, there is exceptional learning that we have all gone through when we think about the impact of big roadway projects on small businesses and in the surrounding neighborhoods. And so this is just an example of that. There was a lot of outreach that was done with the business owners on this stretch, and then also how this would impact the neighborhood that, has been used to parking spaces on Indianola. But as we continue to expand, for safety and for things like road diets and ensuring that our most vulnerable roadway users, folks on mobility devices, walkers, and cyclists have a clear path. This is an example of that. Director Scacco, is there anything that you want to add about this particular project?
Well, good evening, President Harden, Chair Barosa de Padilla, members of council. The Department of Public Service is beyond excited to start construction soon on this project that prioritizes and enhances safety along the Indianola corridor. I would add a couple of things. This project did involve extensive public involvement, as you said, Chair. Our public service team worked with community and business stakeholders to achieve compromise that, reconfigures these lanes on Indianola in the business district to accommodate more on-street parking spaces and safe space for the bike lanes in each direction. I mean, our team worked extensively to squeeze every square inch out of that right-of-way to make sure that we could accommodate all mobility in this corridor and help support the businesses. And also I'd like to add that the new bike lanes being added along this corridor on Indianola will fill a sizable gap in the north-south bikeway network. So with these new lanes, when they are complete, this project will have it be possible for more than 7 miles of continuous bike lanes from Morris Road to downtown. So 7 miles of continuous bike lanes is an achievement that we're pretty proud of here at the Department of Public Service.
Absolutely, and along that stretch, there's also much-needed sidewalk improvements that were deteriorated or weren't the width that was really allowable for people to use them, especially if you had a mobility device or even like a stroller, or even walking side by side with a partner down the street didn't allow for that. So I'm excited about the changes. Very soon, it'll look very different on Indianola. I want to just ask for folks for their patience. I know there's been a ton of construction that has been in and around that area. We have had conversations about how do we continue to have a conversation with the community about the disruptions that they will feel, acknowledging that I'm sure they have a lot of construction fatigue, and that very soon we will have a safer, clearer path for folks to travel down Indianola and to enjoy all the great businesses, especially on that stretch. So do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1742, 2025, to authorize the city auditor to transfer funds between projects within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to authorize the city attorney's office real estate division to contract for professional services relative to the acquisition of fee simple title and lesser interest in and to property needed for the roadway Livingston Avenue, 18th Street to Nelson Road project, to authorize the city attorney's office real estate division to negotiate with property owners to acquire the additional rights of way necessary to complete this project, and authorize the expenditure of $1 million and 0 cents from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. I'm very excited about this project too, because I think this again gives us an opportunity to demonstrate how we can take something like a roadway project and have safety at the core, but then also expand it. So if you look to the screen, the Livingston Avenue 18th Street to Nelson Road project is a result of a safety study initiated by the city that includes public engagement with a steering committee made up of community members. Folks will begin to see on the screen some of the recommendations. The steering committee recommendations included a lane reallocation to reduce the traffic lanes and provide improvements that will increase safety for everyone on the road. The Department of Public Service is currently finalizing construction plans and is prepared to authorize right-of-way acquisition along Livingston Avenue from 18th Street to Nelson Road, pending passage of this funding legislation. I also want to say that we took this opportunity to think about how do we rethink Livingston Avenue for those folks, whether you are an East Sider or not, like myself. This stretch of Livingston Avenue is really a commercial corridor for the residents of Driving Park and that area around Livingston Avenue. And we took the opportunity to not just rethink the street and how do we reconstruct our environment around us, but I also want to give a shout out to Councilmember Bankston, who, working with the community, also conducted a market study for us to really re-envision Livingston Avenue. So not just making the street safer, not just making the street look nicer, but how do we also inject some much needed resources back into the community. If you think about the heyday of this portion of Livingston Avenue, I think about things like B&B Records to Libs, where, back in the day, this is where people got their homecoming and prom suits, right? And people still shop at, and this is part of the fabric of Livingston Avenue. And so I'm really excited that this project, again, we looked at not just the roadway, but also the environment around to rethink the future of Livingston Avenue. I want to thank all of the residents. We just had some of the results of the market study that was shared with residents. I want to thank the Department of Public Service and the Department of Development, who have been working hand in hand with the residents and the area commissioners in the Livingston Avenue corridor on this project. So again, as you travel down Livingston Avenue, you are going to have a very different experience very soon. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1780, 2025, to authorize the transfer of funds within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund to appropriate funds within the Federal Transportation Grants Fund to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Strasser Paving Company Incorporated for the roadway North 4th Street and East 5th Avenue Bike and Safety Improvements Project to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,102,730.19 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund and the Federal Transportation Grants Fund for the project to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period and to declare an emergency. The 4th Street and 5th Avenue Bike and Safety Improvements Project will include the resurfacing of the existing curb lane along the west side of North 4th Street from Warren Street to Hudson Avenue and the installation of protected bike lanes with an adjacent parking lane. It also includes the reallocation of pedestrian crossing signals and the installation of pedestrian islands. By switching parking to become a buffer between cyclists and traffic, this project will visually narrow the roadway to help slow speed. So while we don't have a picture, folks have experienced this. This is essentially taking the lane that's closest to the curb, using that for pedestrians and a bike lane, moving the parking over so that it creates a natural buffer for those most vulnerable roadway users. So I know that this has been a high interest of folks, both for speed and safety, also for a lot of folks who use this path on a mobility device like a bicycle to move across the city. So Director, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this particular project, but I know that it's something that the community is definitely has been wanting and asking for a while.
Yep. Good evening again, President Harden, Chair, members of Council. This is another infrastructure project that supports our Vision Zero principles of prioritizing the safety of all who travel our streets, including those walking, biking, and driving. I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to the Ohio Department of Transportation Safety Program. That's been a great partner for us and helping to make this project possible.
Absolutely. So the notice to proceed date pending passage today is August 4th. So folks will begin to see some activity along that way. Again, I know that as we talk about all the good things that are coming, it's a little bit of inconvenience for folks, but you know, when you see cones and when you see cranes, that means that there's progress. And so it means that we're getting the things that folks have been asking for quite a while. So remember that when you're stuck on traffic, wherever you may be stuck on traffic. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
And last but certainly not least is ordinance 1810, 2025, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract modification with American Structure Point in connection with the roadway 161 Bush Boulevard to Ambleside Drive, that's a difficult word for me to say, project to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,100,000.00 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund to pay for the project and to declare an emergency. The 161 corridor, Bush Boulevard to Ambleside Drive project includes multi-phase project or improvements to safety and access through the East Dublin Granville Road 161. The side streets of Ambleside Drive, Satinwood Drive, Roche Drive, and North Meadows Boulevard will be improved through the addition of pedestrian and bike facilities, new traffic signals, pavement improvements, raised medians on the side streets, and the installation of 2 mini roundabouts and 1 full-size roundabout. Again, this is just a portion of this project to finalize the design before we move into construction. But again, as with the other sets of ordinances that we've talked about, all of this is to increase safety on our streets, to change our built environment, to account for the human error that we will all experience, but especially in some of these high traffic areas where we're starting to see more activity and we're starting to tackle some of the more problematic intersections and corridors. So this ordinance will allow us, again, to finalize that design before we move to construction. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Yes.
Just one comment, Madam Chair. Just want to point out that all these projects that we just talked about are paid for through bond dollars. And we just passed resolutions for the voters to consider a bond package. That's how we fund these critical infrastructure projects. I just wanted to make sure that that connection is made for our voters, that this is where that authority is going to make sure our roads are safer. Thank you.
Absolutely, and actually the Whittier Bridge that we talked about was part of that as well. I mean, that's another example. And those bond dollars also allow us to leverage federal dollars that we talked about that we get for some of these projects as well, to ensure that we can actually pull down those federal funds to get folks the things that they want: more sidewalks, more bike lanes, more connective trails, all the things that we talked about before. So thank you for pointing that out, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments? I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all for me this evening, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee come before council is the Workforce Education and Labor Committee, chaired by Pres Pro Tem. Pres Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. We have ordinance number 1705-2025 to authorize the Director of the Mayor's Office of Management, Mayor's Office of Education to enter into ESC summer programming contracts with high-quality pre-kindergarten organizations selected via competitive application process to provide educational services as part of the 2025 through 2026 Early Start Columbus program, to authorize expenditure not to exceed $5,950,000 from the general fund to declare an emergency. This ordinance invests in high-quality pre-kindergarten education for Columbus 4-year-olds through our Early Start Columbus, a partnership between Columbus City Schools and 42 other child care providers for the 2025-2026 school year. Children who participate in the high-quality pre-K experiences significantly improve their early literacy, language, and math skills. All partnering providers have achieved at least a silver rating in the state's Step Up to Quality rating and improvement system. This funding provided by the city's Office of Education is a vital resource for kids in Columbus, their families, our child care ecosystem as a whole here in our city, and I'm pleased to see this program continue into another year. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
That's all I have in my committee at this time, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee coming before council is the Health, Human Service, and Equity Committee, chaired by Councilmember Green. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President. Tonight in our Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, we have 3 ordinances on second reading. The first is Ordinance 1516-2025 to authorize an appropriation of $1,378,096 from the unappropriated balance in the Health Special Revenue Fund to support Columbus Public Health staff costs, and to authorize the expenditure of $1,378,096 from the Health Special Revenue Fund. These funds will assist in covering personnel costs, in particular those that were previously paid by ARPA dollars that have been exhausted for the remainder of the year. This funding is coming from the balance of the Health Special Revenue Fund, uncovered cash dollars that rolled over from 2024, and staff that will be covered with this appropriation include 11 reroute youth programming and family engagement staff members, 1 voice staff member, and 1 care coalition staff member. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
As I introduce this next ordinance, I would love to invite the Executive Director of the Clintonville Beachwald Community Resources Center, Stephanie Baker, to the podium. Our ordinance is ordinance number 1851-2025 to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with Clintonville Beachwald Community Resource Center in support of its family services program, Choice Food Pantry, to authorize an appropriation of $7,500 within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, to authorize the expenditure of $15,000 within the Neighborhoods Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. The Family Services Program at the Choice Food the Choice Food Pantry at the CRC is working every day to provide food to families impacted by food insecurity. Families utilizing the food pantry are able to connect with a social worker to sign up for food supports, Medicaid, and other eligible benefits. The Choice Food Pantry also provides access to diapers, baby formula, personal hygiene items, and clothing. Additionally, they also provide housing resource specialists to assist people in navigating our complex system of receiving housing supports and assistance here in Central Ohio. this is a really difficult time for many people across our community, and it's also a very difficult time for the organizations that are doing the hard work day in, day out to help people in our community that are experiencing hardship. And I think Councilmember Bankston, when you were giving your remarks earlier, said everything that I would have said in this context in terms of our commitment to shoring up our city's critical human infrastructure, because it's not our roads or our bridges or our lights or our alleys, it's our people in Columbus that are our greatest asset. And so we need to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to ensure that no one here gets left behind, especially at a time when our partners across the street at the State House and our partners up on Capitol Hill seem to be turning our back on our most cherished and viable asset here as a community. And so we're grateful to be able to provide the support to you. You know, Columbus is a city that cares for people, and caring about people means investing in people and investing in the people that care for other people, as one of my colleagues says very often. And so we are grateful to invest in you so you can go on and continue to invest. And now, Stephanie, I would love to turn it over to you to speak a little bit more about the work you're doing and the impact that this funding is going to have.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Green. Good evening, Council President Hardin and Council members. It's an honor to have the opportunity to speak with you. I'm Stephanie Baker, and I'm the Executive Director with the Clintonville Beachwell Community Resources Center, where I've worked for the last almost 19 years. CRC has 7 different programs, and the largest is our Family Services Program. This program includes CRC's food pantry, a crisis desk, and one of the city's housing resource specialist positions. In 2018, the food pantry had 10,000 visits. In 2024, that number climbed to 29,000 visits. So far this year, we've had 16,000 visits, serving more than 10,000 people. Earlier this month, I was sitting in my office when I heard an urgent plea at our front reception desk for help. This individual had just been discharged from the hospital, was unsheltered, and had walked from the hospital seeking assistance at our agency. I partnered him with one of our OSU social work students who called the homeless hotline, helped him apply for benefits, provided food, water, access to a phone, and set him up to use CRC as a temporary address. The need is great. But on a particularly difficult day, Council President Hardin recently reminded me that we're in this work together. This grant will make sure that CRC continues feeding residents with the City of Columbus and providing additional basic needs to support our most vulnerable members. Thank you so much, Councilmember Green, for sponsoring this grant, and thank you to City Council for supporting it. I know time is short, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for the work that you do every single day. You're saving lives and changing lives. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Hardin.
Passed.
Thank you. And finally, our last ordinance tonight is Ordinance 1966-2025 to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with the Choice Network in support of its Just Choice Family Planning and Assistance Programming, to authorize an appropriation of $55,000 within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, to authorize the expenditure of $70,000 within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. Just Choice provides all options counseling, reducing economic strain, with the goal of serving 10,500 individuals annually. This year's funding will go towards supporting 25 families and creating centered adoption plans, assisting 350 clients through case management for family stability, and preventing 50 children from entering the foster care system through enhanced family supports. An emergency designation is requested in order for Choice Network, Inc. to serve the additional capacity of families and children in need of planning and assistance in their operations. This organization does such critical work to support women at a time when women, like every other marginalized group in our entire world, are actively under attack. They provide supports and resources to women so that they can make the right family planning decisions for them, whatever those decisions might be, and truly provide wraparound supports for women and children and their families. It is an incredible organization. I also want to thank my fellow colleagues on the Women's Caucus who co-sponsored and contributed to this appropriation tonight. No one can do anything alone, and I can't do any of this alone without all of you guys, and so I'm so grateful for you. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Banks, Timber,
Oh,
Wilson.
actually, I'm sorry. Hello, sorry. I move to amend as submitted to the clerk. Thank you.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla. Beatty, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
And
made it.
now I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, Beatty, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, President Harden. That's all for me tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee coming before council is the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, chaired by Councilman Remy. Councilman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. Tonight I have 5 pieces of legislation in the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. First, we have 3 liquor objection withdrawals from the City Attorney's Office. Nuisance abatement agreements between these parties were reached in lieu of pursuing the outstanding objections, and the city reserves the right to object to their liquor licenses in the future or to bring the establishments into Franklin County Environmental Court should they not comply. These nuisance abatements include requirements for security upgrades such as cameras, lighting, and hours of operation, employee training, and specific prohibitions on activity at the establishment. The Division of Liquor Control requested that the city withdraw these objections via resolution. I would like to thank Sophie Yano, Assistant City Attorney, for her work on the liquor objections and helping to resolve these 3 tonight. She's here to answer any questions. So the first one that I have this evening is 0157X 2025 to withdraw the objection to the renewal of liquor permit number 141-295-50005 held by Chima Main Street Inc., doing business as Chima Mart 1 BP, located at 3140 East Main Street, Columbus, Ohio 43213, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, Beatty, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, I have 159X 2025 to withdraw the objection to the renewal of liquor permit number 6072630 held by Mobile 2635 Broad Inc., doing business as Mobile Mart, located at 2635 West Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio 43204, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, Beatty, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, I have 160X 2025 to withdraw the objection to the renewal of liquor permit number 654-862-70001 held by 155 North 5th Street Inc., doing business as Excalibur Club, formerly Ex Gentleman's Club, located at 6223 and 6225 Sunderland Drive, Columbus, Ohio 43229, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, Beatty, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. Thank you very much. And next, I have 1568, 2025, to authorize the Director of Public Safety to enter into a contract with Carasoft Technology Corporation to renew Celebrite software licenses to extract evidence from cellular devices, to waive competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $297,932 from the Law Enforcement Seizure Fund, and to declare an emergency. Celebrite software licenses are essential for the Division of Police's Digital Forensics Unit to extract critical digital evidence from cellular and electronic devices. These tools are widely used across the division, as many crimes today have some connection to digital evidence. Renewing these licenses allows the division to continue unlocking, decrypting, and retrieving vital data, including chat conversations, deleted content, stored passwords, app data, and system logs, all of which support solving crimes and building stronger investigative cases. Director, can you speak to the waiver of competitive bidding, please?
Council Chair Remy, Council President Harden, City Council. We're requesting a waiver of the bid process because of this technology's compatibility with the Celebrate equipment already owned by the Division of Police. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Director. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? If seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, I have 1875-2025 to authorize and direct the Director of Public Safety to enter into a contract for helicopter maintenance with Thoroughbred Aviation Maintenance, Inc. for the Division of Police to authorize the expenditure of $1,248,000 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Department of Public Safety to enter into a contract with Thoroughbred Aviation Maintenance for the ongoing maintenance and repair of the Division of Police's helicopter fleet. Regular helicopter maintenance is critical not only for compliance with FAA regulations, but also to ensure officer safety, operational readiness, and adherence to standards outlined in the Airborne Law Enforcement Accreditation Certification process. The $1.248 million contract will ensure the city's aviation assets remain functional, safe, and ready to support law enforcement missions, including search and rescue operations, pursuit, support, and large-scale emergency response. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Yes, I had a question.
Sure.
How long is the contract period for this amount of money? How would one of these contracts work?
I believe it's 1 year.
Is 1 year?
Just,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Thank you very much, Councilmember. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you very much. That is all I have this evening, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a motion to recess for zoning? Is there a second? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
We are in recess. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorance chairs that committee. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, first a little bit of housekeeping. The clerk, please read the numbers of the legislation in this committee that require waiver of second reading.
1843, 1850, 1857, 1862, 1847, 1863, 1866, 1867, and 1868-2025.
Thank you, Clerk. I move to waive second reading on those items read aloud.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. As always, before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, allow me to briefly explain our rules pertaining to speaking before council, rezonings, and variances. We only hear a staff presentation for ordinance that have a disapproval from a recommending body, or if we have public speakers signed up to speak against an ordinance. We permit 3 speakers on each side of an ordinance, 3 proponents, 3 opponents. We ask that those speakers limit their remarks to 3 minutes per the standard rules of the City Council. All speakers in council variance, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, are required to be sworn in before they give testimony. Representative and area commission are always able to speak on an ordinance and do not need to fill out a speaker slip, but we do ask you alert city staff of your intention to speak at this committee hearing. This evening's legislation, we do not have any public speakers signed up to speak. On the advice of City Attorney's Office, we'll now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, that you shall answer and pains the penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Eastman Johns from the Department of Building and Zoning Services have been sworn in. First, we have ordinance 1840-2025 to rezone 1288 Georgesville Road, being 1.717 plus acres located in the northeast corner of Georgesville Road and Parkway Drive from C2 Commercial District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District. Site consists of 1 parcel developed with a vacant commercial building in the C2 Commercial District. The requested CPD Commercial Plan Development District will allow the site to be redeveloped with a drive-through coffee shop. This location. The proposal as commercial development is consistent with the plan's land use recommendation, which includes commercial uses and is compatible with the adjacent commercial developments in the surrounding area. The proposal is approved in City Staff, Development Commission, and the Greater Hilltop Area Commission. And my colleagues, questions, comments? Seeing none, I first move to amend as emergency.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Next, I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1843-2025 to rezone 3055 Gender Road, being 1.92 plus acres located in the northwest corner of Gender Road and Centennial Drive, from the LC4 Limited Commercial District to LM Limited Manufacturing District. Second consists of one undeveloped parcel in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. The requested LM Limited Manufacturing District will allow the site to be developed with a commercial and some manufacturing uses, as allowed with a submitted limitation text and site plan. Proposal is approved from City Staff, Development Commission, and the Far East Area Commission. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1850-2025 to rezone 4020 Parsons Avenue, being 0.17 plus acres located on the east side of Parsons Avenue, 277 plus north of Obetz Road, from C2 Commercial District to R2 Residential District. Second consists of one parcel developed with an office within the C2 Commercial District. The requested R2 Residential District will allow the existing building to be converted into a single-unit dwelling. Although the request is inconsistent with the plan's recommended land use, staff notes that the requested residential use is compatible with the surrounding zoning pattern and residential uses along this portions of Parsons Avenue. Proposal is approved from City Staff, Development Commission, and the Far South Area Commission. Any questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1857-2025 to rezone 4570 Central College Road, being 27.8 plus acres located in the northwest corner of Central College Road and Lee Road, from PUD 4 Planned Unit Development District to PUD 6 Planned Unit Development District. The 27.8 plus acre site consists of one undeveloped parcel in the PUD 4 Planned Unit Development District. The request PUD 6 Planned Unit Development District will instead allow for a residential development with 139 unit detached dwellings with a private street network with 6.96 acres of provided open space, and represents a reduction of 17 units from the current PUD 4 plan. The proposed density of 5 single-unit houses per acre, where the existing zoning of the property is for 5.59 apartments per acre. Proposal is approved from City Staff and the Development Commission. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1862-2025 to rezone 3700 Lifestyle Boulevard, being 2.43 plus acres located on the north side of Lifestyle Boulevard, 300 plus feet west of Seltzer Road, from the LC4 Limited Commercial District to ARO Apartment Office District. The 2.43 plus acre site consists of one parcel developed with a daycare and apartment building in the LC4 Limited Commercial District, with residential parking and ground floor residential uses. The requested ARO Apartment Office District will allow for the existing mixed-use development and new apartment units. Staff is supportive of the proposed density as is consistent with the plan's use recommendations. Additionally, the proposal is consistent with the city's objective of creating more housing in all areas of the city. Proposal is approved from City Staff, the Development Commission, and the Northeast Area Commission. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. We now move into the variances portion of our agenda. First, we have ordinance 1847-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 3367.01, M2 manufacturing districts, 3312.09, IL 3312.43, improve surface required, 3312.49, require parking, and 3367.15D, M2 manufacturing district, special provisions of Columbus City Codes for property located at 7520 Worthington Galena Road to allow a unlimited veterinary practice and animal boarding uses with reduced development standards in the M2 manufacturing district, and revoke ordinance number 1491-93, passed July 12th of 1993. Site consists of one parcel developed with a veterinary facility containing veterinary office, hospital, and indoor animal boarding uses of the M2 manufacturing district. The requested council variance will allow the existing facility to be expanded. Its allowable uses to include outdoor veterinary treatment, a use that is not allowed in the M2 district. A proposal is approved from the Far North Community Coalition, and staff support as well. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1863-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 3312.21D landscaping and screening, 3312.27 parking setback line, 3312.49 required parking, and 3333.24 rear yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 3700 Lifestyle Boulevard to allow reduced development standards for a mixed-use development in the ARO Apartment Office District. This is a concurrent variance for the ordinance we had earlier that would allow the site to be split into two parcels and to allow reduced landscaping and screening, parking setback line, required parking, and rear yards. Proposed variance has approval from city staff and the Northeast Area Commission. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1866-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 3312.09 aisle, 3312.21D1 landscaping and screening, 3312.25 maneuvering, 3312.29 parking space, 3312.49 required parking, 3333.18 building lights, and 3333.255 perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 4600 Lakehurst Court to allow reduced development standards for a mixed-use development in the ARO Apartment Office District and to revoke ordinance number 0257-2025 passed February 10th, 2025, and ordinance 1180-2025 passed May 12th of 2025. This variance request includes lot splits and other reduced development standards in support of a mixed-use development that was approved and rezoned by this body earlier this year. The proposal is reduce setbacks, allow building to front and orient public streets with parking to rear consistent with the plan design guidelines. Staff also note the existing parking garage as a mitigating factor for the parking variance. The proposal is approved from city staff and the Hayden Run Civic Association. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1867-2025 to grant a variance provision section 3332.03 R1 residential district Columbus City Codes for property located at 4000-4022 Westerville Road to allow multi-unit residential use in the R1 residential district. The 4.32 plus acre site consists of 5 parcels developed with single-unit dwelling and accessory buildings in the R1 residential district. The applicant proposes to develop the site with a multi-unit residential development consisting of 120 units for seniors. The variance is necessary because the multi-unit residential uses are not allowed in the R1 residential district, and this request will allow the applicant to pursue competitive funding for the Ohio Housing Financing Agency, conditioned upon filing a follow-up rezoning request of the property to the appropriate zoning district for this use. Proposal has recommended approvals from city staff. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. Next, move to adopt the findings of staff, the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you, and finally move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. And finally, we have ordinance 1868-2025 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.035 R3 residential district, 3312.49 required parking, and 3332.22 A1 building lines on corner lots exceptions, and 3332.26 minimum side yard permitted at Columbus City Codes for property located at 1625 Aberdeen Avenue to allow a 4-unit dwelling from reduced development standards in the R3 residential district. The .16 plus acre site consists of one undeveloped parcel in the R3 residential district. The applicant proposes to develop the site with a 4-unit dwelling as demonstrated in the submitted site plan. The requested council variance is necessary because the single-unit dwelling are only allowable residential use in the R3 residential district. Variance to allow reduced building lines, side yard, and required parking are also included in this request. Proposal is approved from city staff and the North Linden Area Commission. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Again, next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass or adopt it.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have in tonight's zoning agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. See no further business coming before the zoning committee. Is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene regular meeting when directors reconvene. Reconvene meeting number 36. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
We are back in meeting number 36. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, chaired by Councilmember Weiss. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, in Public Utilities and Sustainability, I have 1257-2025 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a contract modification with Resources International for the Construction Administration Construction Inspection Services 2023-2025 contract, to authorize an amendment to the 2024 capital improvement budget to appropriate funds within the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, and to expend up to $1,299,157.18 from the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund to pay for the project. The contract is for the work on the Blueprint Hilltop 1 Palmetto Westgate Lateral Lining Project 1 that will rehabilitate existing sanitary laterals within the Hilltop 1 Blueprint Columbus neighborhood. This is a multi-year contract that will be modified as required to provide construction administration inspection services for construction projects that bid during the contracted period. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have 1530-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to enter into a not-for-profit service contract with Impact Community Action for the implementation of the Empowered Program, a clean energy jobs program and neighborhood energy efficiency measures, to authorize the appropriation of $2,009,922 within the Sustainable Columbus Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of $2,009,922 from the Sustainable Columbus Fund. Since the program's inception, over 100 young adults ages 18 to 24 from the City of Columbus have gained valuable work, readiness, and technical skilled trades training. The program has an over 90% completion rate and a roughly 70% job placement rate. That means 70% of the participants have acquired industry-specific employment that provides benefits and a livable wage, securing positions with employer partners like AEP Ohio, Illuminate USA, and the City of Columbus's Water and Power. Thanks to this innovative program, these young people have started a career, not just gained employment. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have 1555-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Travco Construction Incorporated and John Aramo and Sons Incorporated for the 2025 water main repairs project, to authorize an amendment to the 2024 capital improvement budget, to authorize a transfer of cash and appropriation between projects within the water bond fund, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,347,849.86 for the project. This contract will provide the necessary labor and equipment to complete repairs to water mains at various locations within the Columbus Water Distribution System on an as-needed basis. The ordinance also encumbers funds with the Department of Public Service for prevailing wage services in the amount of $2,000 for each company. Let me pause there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1570-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to renew its contract with K&M Cleaning Services Incorporated for janitorial services at various Department of Public Utilities, Division of Sewerage and Drainage, and Division of Water facilities, and to authorize the expenditure of $808,873.76 from the Water Operating Fund and $894,209.90 from the Sanitary Sewer Operating Fund. The work to be performed will include cleaning services for offices, other industrial-type areas, kitchens, and break rooms. Let me pause there to see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1580-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to enter into a contract with CDM Smith Incorporated for professional construction management services for the Dublin Road Water Plant Granular Activated Carbon Improvement Project, to appropriate funds in the Water Supply Revolving Loan Fund, to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, and to authorize an expenditure of up to $2,999,857.30 from the Water Supply Revolving Loan Fund to pay for the project. This project is necessary to facilitate the installation of granular activated carbon facilities at the city's Dublin Road Water Plant Surface Water Treatment Plant. Granulated activated carbon is a proven technology for PFAS removal, and adding the additional treatment capability will position the Dublin Road Water Plant to meet future regulatory requirements and improve public health protection. Let me pause there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1670-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to enter into a contract modification with CTL Engineering Incorporated for the Construction Administration Construction Inspection Services 2023-2025 contract, to authorize the appropriation of funds in the Water Supply Revolving Loan Fund, to make this ordinance contingent upon the approval of a loan from the Ohio Water Development Authority, and to expend up to $1,190,319.66 from the Water Supply Revolving Loan Fund. This contract covers the construction, administration, inspection services for the Bloomfield Drive Area Water Line Improvements Project. CTL Engineering Incorporated will be assigned construction projects as tasks on their contract, and as projects are added to the contract will be modified to authorize CTL Engineering Incorporated to perform the work. The loan this project is contingent on is expected to be approved in August of this year. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1679-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Fields Excavating Incorporated for the Bloomfield Drive Area Water Line Improvements Project, to amend the 2024 capital improvements budget, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of up to $7,039,259.81 from the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund for the contract, to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for the project, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,000 from the Water Bond Fund to pay for prevailing wage services. The goal of this project is to replace or rehabilitate the existing water lines that have a high break frequency. Approximately 11,200 linear feet of 6-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch water mains will be replaced, as well as privately owned lead and galvanized water service lines. Galvanized steel water service lines, sorry. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1713-2025 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Performance Pipelining Incorporated for the Blueprint Hilltop 1 Palmetto Westgate Lateral Lining Project 1 to authorize an amendment to the 2024 capital improvement budget to appropriate funds within the sanitary revolving loan fund, to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $6,826,847.22 from the sanitary revolving loan fund and the sanitary bond fund to pay for the project. This project will ensure our wastewater collection systems have the ability to adequately convey flows generated by a 10-year storm event without experiencing stormwater system overflows or basement backups, in compliance with the EPA consent order. This ordinance also sets aside $2,000 for prevailing wage services for the Department of Public Service. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1723-2025 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into a contract with Technology International Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of one air compressor trailer for the Division of Power, to authorize the waiver of competitive bidding requirements of Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $55,915 from the Division of Electricity Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. The air compressor trailer will be used by the Division of Power to enable employees to conduct work around the city's electrical distribution system and other related infrastructure. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And last, I have ordinance 1748-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to enter into a construction modification with Travco for the lead service line replacement pilot program project, to authorize an amendment to the 2024 capital improvement budget, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of funds from the Water Reserve Fund to the Water Fresh Water Market Rate Fund, to authorize the appropriation of funds to expend up to $1 million from the Water Fresh Water Market Rate Fund, and to declare an emergency. This contract modification is being requested as an emergency due to this contract being partially funded by an H2 Ohio grant that requires funds to be encumbered and spent by milestone dates, or the grant funding will be reduced or eliminated. In addition, the urgency around removing all lead service lines from the distribution system will help to improve public health. So let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, De Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all I have for my committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The final committee to come before council is the Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee. I chair that committee. The first piece of legislation we have this evening is ordinance 1552-2025. Is to amend the 2024 capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to transfer funds within the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, and to authorize the Director of Development to enter into grant agreements with Tivoli Apartments, LLC, in an amount up to $2,250,000, to authorize the expenditure up to $2,250,000 from the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, and to authorize the reimbursement of expenditures incurred prior to the establishment of this purchase order. This legislation is a commitment to preservation of affordable housing in the Harrison West neighborhood. The legislation would appropriate $2.2 million for the acquisition of Tivoli Apartments in Harrison West, which will redevelop it into affordable housing with rents restricted to no more than 60% of the area median income. The 88-unit property, which was originally developed as part of the Goodale Urban Renewal Development Project, will contribute to housing affordability in a neighborhood that offers walkability to downtown Columbus, employment centers, and public transit. Currently, there is a strong demand for affordable housing options near downtown Columbus, where current market data shows an average of $1,600 in monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment and $1,700 for a two-bedroom apartment. A few years ago, there were neighborhood conversations about changes in the Harrison West Victorian Village neighborhood, and concerns voiced specifically about the need to keep apartment complexes like Tivoli Apartment affordable. We are excited to see this project come to fruition and demonstrate a commitment to preservation, especially in our urban core. And as several council members made mention of this evening, ordinances like this would not be possible but for the affordable housing bond. And as we have these conversations this year, it's this type of work that we want to continue to do that holds affordability in a rapidly changing housing environment. So are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Ordinance is passed. Next up, we have ordinance 1704-2025 is to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for CHP Kimberly Inc. on a home loan due to the City of Columbus totaling approximately $2.1 million, $2,150,000. This legislation provides forgiveness of a home loan made in 1998 for site acquisition and construction for an affordable housing development. This allows for refinancing to preserve affordable housing with the Columbus Housing Partnership, known as Homeport. This will preserve affordability an additional 30 years, monitored by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. They are not requesting any additional funds. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll. Or is there a second? I apologize. I skipped all of them. I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. Next up, we have ordinance 1765-2025 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Reserve at Maryland Avenue LLC for development of 84 housing units in an amount up to $2,020,000 to authorize the appropriation of funds within the income set-aside sub-fund and the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, to authorize the transfer of cash between the income tax set-aside sub-fund and the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,020,000 within the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, to authorize the reimbursement of expenditures incurred prior to the establishment of a purchase order, and to declare an emergency. This new multifamily development, the Reserve at Maryland Avenue, proposes 84 units that will offer income-restricted housing for residents of Columbus Near East Side. The complex will consist of 4 residential buildings with competitive unit sizings and amenities like fully equipped kitchens, washer and dryer hookups, and spacious closets. It will also include a clubhouse for residents as well as a playground, green space, fitness center, and more. These units will be designed and manufactured by Connect Housing Blocks, a local modular apartment manufacturer in Columbus. This type of innovative housing is potentially more environmentally sustainable with 70% less waste than traditional stick builds. It's also less weather dependent and can be inspected in the factory, making it more time efficient method of housing development. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? If none, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed. Seeing no further business coming for council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Beatty, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We'll now go into